Hey gang, this is Chris. Today I'm talking about American Delivery, a documentary which recently came out from Kino Lorber. They sent this to me for review, the DDV. This just came out. This is a new release, 2024. This was just released in 2025 by Kino Lorber. So it is a 84-minute documentary, and the tagline here says, "Solving the Maternal Mortality Crisis in U.S. Healthcare." The producers on here are Carolyn Jones and Lisa Frank, and Carolyn Jones also directed this. And I didn't know going into this that it has a couple of the stories in this are take place in Ohio, families from Ohio and the Metro Health Hospital in Cleveland. And so that was interesting, kind of a local thing for me here. Let's just take a look at, so there's a cute little foot there. And then on the back, there's one of the moms that's featured in this. And I'll show you a snapshot of this so you can see there are some bonus features. There's a trailer. There are some little featurettes in here. Philadelphia, Kentucky, closing healthcare gaps in rural areas, which is interesting. And I really like, so they basically show you the story of different moms in this documentary. You get to meet the moms where they are in their pregnancy journey and the decisions that they're making for their labor and delivery prep, because you have a lot of decisions to make. What I like about this, there are a lot of different moms from different backgrounds. You have people from urban areas, from rural areas, there was a mother from Tanzania, I think. So there's a really good sampling of people from different backgrounds, and it talks about the decisions they're making and what they're thinking about for their delivery. Pregnant women before, and then it shows them after, and they talk a little bit about how their delivery went. Going into this, I did not know that it was sponsored largely by Cleveland Metro Health and a couple different nursing associations. I noticed. I don't recall all the different sponsors. I assume this was going to be talking about maternal mortality and natural ways to deal with that issue in America, but really this took a more hospital-centric approach, I think, and I think that is largely due to they talked a lot to healthcare administrators, and there were a bunch of different midwives in this, but maybe the crunchy community would call them medwives. And I really liked the one that was in Kentucky. She seemed to be very naturally minded. I love some of the stats they throw out in this movie. 98% of births in America take place in hospital settings, which is wild if you think about it, because there are also birthing centers. And there's also the possibility of home births. And only one of the stories in this documentary took place in a birthing center, but that mom ended up having to get transferred to a hospital. I guess, hey, spoiler, she ended up having to get transferred to a hospital and getting a C-section. It just didn't sit right with me. The one person that decided to, really be empowered and go against the grain and birth in a birthing center, they had to get transferred to a hospital in the end. It's like, I think that everybody recognizes that hospitals exist and, we need them in times of crisis, but birth isn't necessarily a crisis. And unfortunately for that mom, it turned into one. But that's just not the case with so many other people. So it said that the common practices for birth in America are you get an epidural for pain. You are put on Pitocin, which is a synthetic hormone that simulates oxytocin. So whenever you go into labor, your body produces oxytocin. It's the feel-good chemical, and that's what stimulates the contractions. And so you're put on Pitocin, which is a synthetic form of it, and that's to induce labor, or it's to either augment labor. It's a way to give the nurses a way to control your contractions and control your labor, so they can either speed it up or slow it down. And then the third was that it's attended by OB-GYNs and RN nursing combos. So these units, these teams kind of are the ones that you're being seen by, that you don't typically in America see a midwife unless you choose to. A lot of them, a lot of the issues moms have is that midwives, you can have issues with whether or not they're covered under your insurance and stuff like that. So it's really, that's, I think, the number one barrier that moms have in America to accessing a midwife. So the maternal mortality rate in America is ridiculous. They said that it was 10 times that of Europe. And they said that in Europe, what they commonly do, they have a nurse midwife attend instead of an OB-GYN. And they said that they also have pre and postnatal nurses visit the home. You have a home visit or a series of them, whereas you don't get that at all in America. And then they also have universal health care, and they have paid family leave. So, the typical, if you happen to be covered by FMLA in America, you're going to be covered for, 12 weeks. You get 3 months off, but that's not guaranteeing that you get paid. I think it depends where you work, but you might be able to file short-term disability. So what I did like about this was that it gave you a lot of different stories, and you got to hear from real moms what they're thinking about and the issues that they're facing. It talked about the case of the nurse mom that died postpartum that was married to a doctor, and it was kind of like, it's a rich white nurse that's married to a doctor. This shouldn't have happened to her. Like, why is this happening in America? And then it also talked a lot about the fact that mortality rates are significantly higher amongst minorities. And I think they said specifically Black women in America have super high mortality rates. And why is that? So, what are the factors that are contributing to that? It was interesting hearing all the things that they said contribute to that. What care do they have access to? What disparities are they facing? The very first story, I think, was a couple from Cleveland, Ohio, and the woman went into labor naturally. I think she started having contractions. She went to the hospital, and then what do? They put her on Pitocin. And I think it made the baby's heart rate drops, and now it's like an emergency. We're monitoring the baby constantly, and mom's stressed, and everybody's stressed. And I'm like, this is what happens. It's the cascade of interventions. Here's my story as a mom. And why I'm so up in arms about this. I was pregnant with my first, and I go to the hospital, doing all the right things, all the things the doctor says to do, and they claim that if you induce a mom earlier, then there's a lesser risk of C-section. So I was told by my doctor at 37 weeks, a normal pregnancy is 40 weeks, I was told at 37 weeks, you should get induced next week, because if you wait and you go over, you're going to need a C-section. And I was like, how can you say that? And I'm super healthy. I don't think that I'm at risk for a C-section. I didn't know that 1 in 3 births end in C-section. So I don't think that's even a possibility for me. I'm like, I don't need that. So I wait, and I know that first-time moms tend to go into labor later. So it was my first time, and then at 41 weeks, they say, we don't let you go past 41 weeks. You have to deliver this baby. Okay, so I did what the doctor told me to do. I scheduled my appointment, and at 41 weeks, I went to the hospital. And I get to the hospital, and they put you on Pitocin, and it starts your contractions. Things aren't happening fast enough because your body's not ready to go into labor yet. So things aren't happening, then they start turning it up. And I said Pitocin's a synthetic oxytocin. So it hurts. It hurts a lot. My baby wasn't in danger. Her heart rate was fine. But they say, it's not progressing. So you can they told me, literally, you can either sit here and keep trying, or you can have your C-section now. And I was like, I thought that this was like, you were saying that I'm doing good, and now you're saying I need to get cut open. I had a C-section and I felt defeated. And meanwhile, like, I could feel everything. I had an epidural and they messed it up. The anesthesiologist sucked. She placed my needle wrong, and now I have permanent nerve damage. I have like a permanent itchy feeling on my body because she permanently damaged my nerves because she did it wrong. And that's just a side effect. So, whatever, I guess. But I had to have the epidural because they were torturing me with the Pitocin. I told them to turn it down, and they wouldn't turn it down. So this is just like, it's one thing leads to another. So the Pitocin led to, the epidural leads to, oh, by the way, now you need to get a C-section. And the epidural didn't work, so I could feel the C-section and I could feel myself being cut open. So these are the things that you don't realize as a first-time mom. You don't realize that one thing leads to another, and everything they do has a consequence. You just don't understand how the hospital works. So that was fine. My C-section healed, and I had minimal complications, and I was able to nurse, and everything went well. And then my OB told me, well, at least you can say you tried to labor, and next time you can just schedule your appointment to have surgery. And I was like, oh, okay. Thanks, doc, for being so supportive. So vaginal birth after cesarean is a thing. It's called a VBAC in the birthing world. But once you have a C-section, they do think that you need to have another one. They think that you're high risk. They think that you're at risk for uterine rupture. Meanwhile, Pitocin itself creates a risk for uterine rupture. So I started doing my research, and I was in Pennsylvania, and I was looking at midwives that will come to a hospital with you. And they don't do that. If you had a C-section, they will not even consider you. So I couldn't go to a birthing center because I had a C-section. I couldn't have a midwife at a hospital because I had a C-section. So I was basically between getting cut open again or hiring a traditional midwife, which is a woman with no medical license. And that's what I did. I found a midwife that was very highly reviewed online, and I talked to her. She had, I think, 10 kids of her own, and she had delivered hundreds of babies. She delivered VBAC babies. She delivered twins and breech, and she was a previous EMT. I was like, I feel so safe with this woman, and I did all my prenatal appointments with her, and I hired a doula for support. And she helped me and coached me throughout labor. And I had my baby in my house. I was like, this would never have happened had I gone to a doctor. I paid out of pocket for this traditional midwife. And it was the best thing. It was like the most positive experience I could have ever asked for. It was literally the best thing I've ever done in my life. And the fact that people compare giving birth, and meanwhile, I was able to walk around, I was able to eat, I was in the comfort of my own home, in my own bed, and I was able to be with my baby in like this very comfortable place. It was my house, and it doesn't get much more comfortable than that, right? And it's just like, there's so many things that it's like, even, exposing the baby to the microbes in your home right away instead of a sterile environment. All these things, it makes sense that it's better for their immune system. My baby was able to go outside like hours later and breastfeed in the sun. And you don't do that. Like, oh, your baby has jaundice, we have to stick them under a light. Like, what? What? Does any of this make like instinctual sense to people? And, so if anything, if a pregnant woman is watching this, please, for the love of God, just trust yourself and use some instincts. I don't think that this is very empowering to women. So I gave this 2 stars on Letterboxd because I did enjoy the birth stories in this, but I don't find it empowering to women. We outsource so many of our decisions that we make, and we don't trust ourselves to do anything. I don't understand why why the go-to in America is to go to the hospital and then start the cascade of interventions. So, I don't really know. I got this. I'm going to give it to my sister so she can watch it and I can get her thoughts on it. But I didn't care for it. I thought that the movie itself was it was interesting to watch, and I liked the way that the information was presented to us as a documentary. It was a solid documentary. It was a fast watch. It was an easy watch. So if you're interested in it, it was really well made, but just personally wasn't what I was hoping it would be. And the subject matter just kind of upset me. So, I don't know who watched this. I hope that the purpose of this review, I would love if there's a mom that's out there looking for information. My doula had a library. All these people have libraries and resources, and they're there to help you. So do the work and do what's best for you and trust yourself, because I'm not like a religious woman, but I feel like that's what we're designed to do. So you should trust your body. Do that. And that was my review of American Delivery. We have a problem in America, and I don't think that this is going to really, it's there. It's a step. It's a step because we're not going to get rid of the medical industrial complex. So if we can, use this as a stepping stone to get where we need to be, that's progress, I guess. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.